The air in the small room was heavy as a storm, where Remy knelt before Electra, his hands clasped together until they bled, as if he wanted to use his physical pain to redeem some of what had been lost. No one witnessed the scene except Deke, who stood silently in the doorway, a figure torn between his fatherly instinct and his judgmental instinct. Remy spoke in ragged breaths, each word like a knife cutting through the air, tearing apart the silence that was already tense to the point of bursting. He confessed everything, there was nothing left to hide, but that honesty opened a new door for Electra, a weakness both legal and emotional, one that could turn him into a tool or a victim in her game. Electra said nothing, but her look was enough for Remy to understand that the silence of the wounded was more terrifying than any accusation. She held the power in her hands, to forgive him, to draw him to her, to make him an ally in the powerful world she was building, or put him in jail to clear his name, to prove that love cannot justify betrayal. And while she thought, Deke stood there, watching the two people he once believed could save each other now drown each other, realizing that his role was no longer that of father, no longer that of guide, but that of the one who must ultimately choose sides, the one who would decide who would retain what little humanity remained. The scene played out simultaneously in another part of the city, where Brooke was trying to convince Deacon to leave Sheila, a seemingly harmless act that was the spark that lit the fuse. Deacon, caught between loyalty and fear, between love and survival instinct, listened to Brooke with conflicting eyes. Brooke had no idea that every word she said, every attempt to pull Deacon away from Sheila, was awakening the wounded beast inside Sheila. On the other side, Sheila sensed the change in the air, the scent of betrayal seeping through the cracks in the walls like smoke, making her shrink, her survival instinct turning into an attack response. For Sheila, love was never about giving. It was about possessing, about dominating, about surviving in fear of losing. And when she felt the home was shaking, she would strike first, because in Sheila's world, the first to strike was the one who survived. Remy bowed his head lower, his palms stained with dust and dried blood, but what flowed inside was despair. Electra looked down, the light reflecting off her face, making the hard lines shimmer like bronze, beautiful but cold. She remembered what she had lost because of Remy, remembered the sleepless nights building her reputation, hiding her wounds with reason, and now, when he asked for forgiveness, she wasn't sure she wanted to hear it. But reason whispered, keeping him around might be more beneficial. Forgiveness is a tool when used properly. And in that moment, in Electra's mind, a plan took shape, not a plan of love, but of power. Deke saw the transformation, the cold gleam in his daughter's eyes, and he knew the tragedy was far from over. As a father, he wanted to protect them both, but as someone who had straddled the line between justice and evil, he knew that sometimes you have to let the wrongdoer suffer. He felt his own contradictions eating away at his very bones. His compassion made him want to reach out, but his duty told him to let go. In an instant, Deke realized he was seeing himself in Remy, the one who had knelt for his mistakes, who had begged for understanding, and who had been rejected. The shadow of the past fell on the present, chilling him. Meanwhile, Sheila entered the darkest phase of her nature. The room she stood in seemed to breathe with her anger, everything around her complicit. She began to collect clues, fragments of memory, cracks in Deacon's behavior. She realized he was drifting away from her, and it made her angry. For Sheila, love was a battlefield, and whoever left first was a traitor. She thought of Brooke, the woman she believed was the cause. A dark plan formed in her mind, not just for revenge, but to prove control. Electra left the room, leaving Remy kneeling on the floor like a soul stripped of all choice. But in his eyes, the desperate light turned to something else, a knowledge that his confession could be used. He knew Electra better than anyone, knew that she would use anything to strengthen her position. And he also knew that Deke was watching, waiting to see what he would do. Would someone like Remy, when pushed to the brink, choose to be a pawn or turn the board? The question rang in his mind like a clock ticking down. Brooke, meanwhile, had no idea that she was entering another game. When she advised Deacon to leave Sheila, she believed she was doing the right thing, saving a soul from the abyss. But she forgot that Sheila didn't just hear with her ears, she felt with her gut. And in the darkness, Sheila made a decision. If Brooke wanted to take her love, she would take their peace. No one could escape the hands of someone who had survived every storm. As night fell, for people stood in 4 different parts of the city, connected by the same invisible thread: guilt, love, betrayal, and revenge. Remy quietly left the room, carrying a scar that would never heal. Electra looked in the mirror, seeing not the image of a broken woman, but one who had learned to use pain as a weapon. Deke sat alone in the dark room, hearing Remy's plea echo in his head, wondering if mercy was another sin, and Sheila, in her apartment, holding an old lighter, the small flame reflecting off her blood-colored eyes. Like a prophecy of the coming storm, choices are intersecting like underground currents. Electra can forgive to control, Remy can resist to survive. Deke can become the final judge, and Sheila will not wait for anyone. When she feels her home is shaking, she acts before anyone can breathe. In her world, love means kill, keeping means destroy. That night, in some dark corner of the city, the first fire flashes, like a warning that everything is about to get out of control. And in the moment that light reflects off Remy's eyes, Deke and Electra, in 3 different places, feel a strange premonition, as if fate is calling them to the same convergence point, where Sheila will choose to act. The fire may be real, or it may just be a projection of fear. But the ultimate question hangs like a knife blade. When love becomes a weapon and forgiveness becomes a tactic, which of them will be the first to light the fire and burn down the world they are trying to hold on to? The sky over Los Angeles seemed to be lower the morning Steffi received Sheila's bizarre offer, a promise wrapped in assurance, but reeking of menace. Sheila stood on the other side of the line between light and dark, her eyes like 2 drills penetrating every thought. She said she would keep Luna locked, and the words, meant to be a promise of protection, rang out like the latch of a prison door. Locked, the word echoed in Steffi's mind all day, turning the surrounding sounds into the rattling of chains. Was it a deal? A buried secret? Or a confinement of Sheila's kind, where she used love and threats to bind the souls around her? Steffi knew better than anyone that Sheila never did anything without a price. In exchange for Deacon's guarantee of marriage, Sheila asks her to do one thing: keep Taylor away from Deacon. The request, at first glance, sounds like a chess game in which the first pawn is pushed away only to make way for the next moves. But in Steffi's eyes, it's a direct blow to the foundation of everything she's tried to protect: family, honor, and the fragile boundaries that separate them from the chaotic abyss Sheila carries. Steffi knows her mother, knows Taylor's vulnerability when her heart is awakened, knows how she puts emotion above reason, knows that a single honest confession from Deacon is enough to make her forget the warnings. Forget that Deacon is still pulled by his past with Sheila. And then what Steffi fears most comes true. Taylor is caught in the vortex that she herself warned her daughter to avoid. When Deacon comes calling, his voice hoarse and weary, the voice of a man torn between love and redemption, Taylor can no longer keep her distance. In that outpouring, the line between sympathy and passion is blurred, making the Deacon-Sheila Taylor triangle a fuse that only needs a small spark to blow everything apart. Steffi, caught between 2 fronts, tries to restore order by convincing her mother to leave town. She speaks with steely eyes, the voice of someone who has lived long enough to know that Taylor's love could kill her. But love, once ignited by late flames, is stubborn like a child. The more forbidden it becomes, the more it shines. Taylor looks at Deacon as if seeing a part of herself she once lost, and Deacon looks at Taylor as a chance to be redeemed from sin. Meanwhile, Sheila, outside but still in the center, smiles at her own plan. She doesn't need to interfere, just pull the string. The intense love between Taylor and Deacon became a double-edged sword. Every time they met, a part of Taylor's mind melted, while the guilt towards her daughter broke her heart further. Every time Deacon talked about change, about the dream of living peacefully, Sheila stood in the dark, squeezing the invisible string that connected the 3 of them tighter. And then Steffi began to regret, not for trying to protect her mother, but for not doing more, for not understanding that hesitation was the opportunity for someone like Sheila to come in. When information leaked that Taylor and Deacon were planning to hold a wedding, everything seemed to collapse in Steffi's mind. She understood that once Taylor officially entered Deacon's life, Sheila would no longer be bound by any limits. Lock, the original promise, suddenly took on a different meaning. No longer the Luna lock, but the master lock of all of their fates in the upcoming series of tragedies. Sheila no longer controlled Luna because she needed her, but because she wanted her to be a card, a proof, a spark. The wedding day came. The golden light shone through the white curtains, red wine filled the glasses, flowers and candles flickered. Everyone tried to believe that there could be a new beginning for Taylor and Deacon, a forgiveness. But in the space filled with roses and promises, Sheila quietly walked in with a black dress like a thick smoke in the air. She smiled, her blood-red lips trembling slightly when she saw Taylor in her simple wedding dress, the woman who was once a symbol of light, now standing in the arms of the man Sheila once considered her own. In that moment, Sheila understood that she had lost in love, but could win in power. She pulled out a silver lighter from her pocket, an old gift Deacon had given her when they were together, lit it, the blue flame flashed, then disappeared in the palm of her hand. The party started, soft music playing, Taylor smiling, Deacon holding her hand, soft glances exchanged, while Steffi stood in the far corner, her heart pounding, sensing something was wrong. And then it happened, a dry crackle, a puff of smoke rising from the kitchen area, and then the fire spread as if it had been waiting for it all along. People panicked, glasses shattered, screams echoed in the space filled with fire and smoke, tablecloths turned into torches, wedding flowers burned black, Taylor's white dress turned to ash. Sheila stood outside, watching the scene like a work of art she had just completed, her eyes glowing in the firelight, both proud and mad. Steffi rushed into the smoke, looking for her mother, looking for Deacon, calling their names in vain. Flames licked the walls, the smell of burning plastic and fabric mixed with the smell of candle wax, each breath a tear in her lungs. She saw Taylor fall, Deacon shielding her, saw Sheila turn and walk away, her figure shrinking but leaving a long black trail on the floor, a trail of hatred. The sight seared into Steffi's mind like a tattoo of fire, leaving a lingering smell of ash. When the fire was put out, when the water from the fire hoses mixed with tears and sweat, when everyone was carried out, Steffi knelt in the rubble, her hands shaking. In the smoke, she heard ambulance sirens, people screaming, the clatter of running shoes, and in the noise, a small sound, a cigarette lighter clicking one last time somewhere in the darkness, like a reminder from the devil that the game wasn't over. Taylor survived, but with deep wounds in her body and soul. Deacon lost everything, his shop, his reputation, and his dream of starting a new life. And Sheila, gone like smoke, leaving a void filled with the smell of sulfur. Steffi stood in front of the hospital, the rain falling lightly, watching the emergency lights reflect off the road like streaks of blood, wondering if she could save her mother again or if her kindness had opened the way for evil. The fire of that night not only burned down the party, but also burned the last boundaries between love and obsession, between redemption and punishment. In her dreams after that, Steffi would always see Sheila smiling in the middle of the fire, and one question would repeat like a metallic knock in her brain. If Sheila said she would lock Luna, what she was really locking away were the souls of all of them, those who thought they could escape the fire they themselves